And joining me now are PBS NewsHour's Judy Woodruff, who covered the Carters and the Georgia governor's mansion before coming to NBC News for the 1976 campaign and later covering the Carter White House. Also with us, MSNBC contributor Jonathan Alter, author of His Very Best, Jimmy Carter, A Life. And Anita McBride, director of the Legacies of America's First Ladies Initiative at American University, and author of the textbook, U.S. First Ladies, Making History and Leaving Legacies. And arguably, thank you all for coming together. And I know that among you had really close relations with Rosalynn Carter. What a legacy. Wanted to play something about her legacy from C-SPAN 10 years ago this month.
I hope my legacy continues, more than just First Lady, because Carter Center has been an integral part of our lives, I think, and our motto is waging peace, fighting disease, and building hope. And I hope that I have contributed something to mental health issues and help improve a little bit the lives of people living with mental illnesses.
Judy Woodruff, you knew her from the days in Georgia and, of course, came to Washington on that Carter campaign. The most striking things about her for you
was how she developed from someone who was shy and didn't like speaking in public when he first ran for political office in the early 1960s to someone who relished politics, loved it, wanted to be at the center of of every political fight her husband was engaged in. This was a woman who learned so much on the job, and it came through when you spoke with her. She knew details. She did her homework. She did research, and she loved the political game. She loved it.
And Jonathan Alter, in some ways, perhaps more than her husband did, but she was such a combination of substance and politics. Let me just play a little bit of her talking about politics.
I love politics. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the life.
And, you know, one of the things that was so striking was her travels, her diplomatic travels. In their first year in office, she went 12,000 miles around Latin America, negotiating and talking to leaders about nuclear power and agricultural exports and drug interdiction.
Yeah, she was meeting with dictators, confronting them head on. She was the first lady who was ever a diplomat for her husband. And in that sense, you know, took it much further than Eleanor Roosevelt had. And I was struck by her modesty in talking about her contribution on mental health. She was the first great champion of mental health in the history of this country. It had been a taboo subject. And she dedicated herself to lifting the stigma and then put legislative muscle behind that by winning enactment of the first major piece of mental health legislation ever passed by the Congress in 1980. Now, Ronald Reagan repealed a lot of that, and some of the provisions for community mental health centers didn't appear until Obamacare 30 years later. But in the meantime, she continued to champion the rights of the mentally ill and made very substantive contributions in a whole series of other areas, including fighting age discrimination, vaccinating children in 33 states, and contributing in a very significant way to moving the federal government from tokenism to genuine diversity. Jimmy Carter, at Rosalynn's urging, nominated 5 times as many women to the federal bench as all of his predecessors combined.
Which is remarkable. Anita McBride, Rosalynn's foreign trips, which I referenced, your textbook says Rosalynn was publicly involved in foreign policy, but not in the typical ceremonial way. So talk to me about that. In 1977, sure. Central and South America, 7 countries. I referenced 12,000 miles, 13 days, and topics including, you know, the human rights, the beef exports, arms reduction, demilitarization, drug trafficking, nuclear energy. And then Thailand, walking through hospitals and orphanage tents for Cambodian refugees.
these were serious substantive issues in which she engaged. And in fact, in the preparation for the Latin America trip, she learned Spanish. She studied the issues, all of the substance that you just recounted and that Jonathan referred to. What was interesting, though, about her trip, the president, of course, supported her doing this. The State Department briefers told her it would not be successful. This was a macho-dominated area of the world, and they really poo-pooed her going. But she knew something that no advisor could do as well as she could. She was the closest person to the president. She knew these leaders would want to talk to the president. If he wasn't there, they can get their message to him through her. It's interesting, when the trip was over and she came back, the president's pollster, Pat Caddell, handed the president a review of how the trip went, how it was perceived in that area of the world. And it was rated as excellent. Before that report was given to Mrs. Carter, President Carter had written at the top of it, "Rosalind, don't run against your husband." He saw how valuable she was to him. It was perfect.
And Judy, you saw them most recently, I think, at the 75th birthday anniversary celebration, 2 years ago in Plains. It was 2 years ago, July.
I did. It was the 75th in the summer of 2021, and you played some of that a moment ago, Andrea. You saw certainly President Carter aging. Mrs. Carter there was humor in her comments. Several times she poked a little bit of fun at him, fun at herself. She strikes me as someone who has taken on the role of former First Lady with a fierce embrace. I mean, she with her husband, she always liked to say, well, he's a lot smarter than I am, but I do everything I can to keep up with him. And she did. I mean, she went all around the world with him. And then in these final years, she's been at his side. It's been an inspirational partnership, Andrea, you know so well, because you also covered some of that presidency. And you saw these are two people who were, till the end of their lives, have been close, they've been supportive, they believed in the same things, they've cared about, as you just heard from Anita and John, the things that are enduring. And I think we're going to remember what she did, what she contributed for a very long time.